and attention for the next session, which has definitely deserved it. So please take your seat when I announce the lead of the next session and her speakers. Please welcome on stage with me the Deputy Mission Manager, Rosalind van der Vlies. Rosalind, the floor is yours.
So, good morning, everybody. Let me start by saying that it's a real big pleasure to be here with you this morning. And we have heard a lot this morning already about the political dimension of the mission. But I think it's high time that we will be diving a bit more concretely on what is happening actually on the ground. And we have an amazing panel lined up for you. So please take your seats. Don't be shy. Come in, take your seats. For this panel discussion where we will have people with first-hand experience on the implementation of the mission. And it's my great honor now to invite our first panelist to come on the stage. This is Tanja Kristova. Tanja Kristova is the mayor of Gabrova in Bulgaria since 2011 and also the chair of the Commission on the Social Policy, Education, Employment, Research and Culture of the Committee of the Regions. And she was also the chief of the political office of Bulgaria's Minister of EU Funds. So ladies and gentlemen, please a big applause for Tanja Kristova. And what you may not know is that actually our mayor of the city is very proud because this is the capital of humor and satire. And I'm told that the people of Gabrovo are famous for their thriftiness, and there's actually a very interesting museum called the House of Humor and Satire in Gabrovo. So by now you are all invited to go and visit this city, which has the ambition to become climate neutral by 2030, and also then visit this famous Museum of Humor and Satire. Thank you very much. So our second panelist, ladies and gentlemen, it's Olivera Injac. Olivera Injac, please come to stage. She's the mayor of Podgorica. I'm very sorry for my pronunciation. Podgorica. Voilà. This is the capital. Yeah.
Montenegro.
Yes, exactly. It's the largest city of Montenegro. I mean, of course, there are many people here who knew that. And also really, really honored to be here because he is the former Minister of Defense of Montenegro and also a professor at the university, amongst others. And very, very pleased to have you here. And also, ladies and gentlemen, please a big applause for Mrs. Olivera Injac. And I understand that you took office a little over 2 months ago, so big congratulations and thank you very much for your ambition on climate neutrality, also for the largest city in Montenegro. So now it's my big pleasure and honor to invite to stage Annalisa Boni, our third panelist. Annalisa is the deputy mayor of Bologna in Italy, but she was the former Secretary General of Eurocities, and she actually served as a rapporteur in the first configuration of our mission board. And this is why we are not unfamiliar with each other. So, ladies and gentlemen, please a big applause for Annalisa Boni. And what you did not know about Annalisa is that apart from her mission to make sure that also Bologna will be climate neutral by 2030 at the latest, in her free time to unwind, Annalisa has a daughter with whom she does a lot of karaoke. And I think this is also very, very good to know because, of course, what is better than to ensure that we are climate neutral and also sing every now and then. So now my fourth panelist, very, very pleased to welcome to stage Mr. Allen Pilgaard Jensen, Deputy Director of Project Zero in Sunderberg, Denmark. And Project Zero is a public-private partnership established in 2007 already, and the plan is here for Sunderberg to become climate neutral. And ladies and gentlemen, please a big applause for Allen Pilgaard Jensen. And what you did not know about Alan is that apart from his work as Deputy Director at Project Zero, Alan also is a hunter and a fisherman in the free time. So this is really wonderful to have you here. And last but not least, my big pleasure to invite to stage Mrs. Giorgia Rambelli. Giorgia works for the Global Covenant of Mayors and is Director of the Urban Transition Mission of Mission Innovation. And before that, she worked at ICLE, Local Governments for Sustainability. A big applause for Giorgia Rambelli, ladies and gentlemen. And before we dive into the discussion, I just want to share with you that Giorgia, which you did not know because you cannot find it in her CV, actually served as a Girl Scout for more than 12 years. She knows how to tie ropes. She can make a whole hammock just out of ropes. And she's very proud that she also had a pioneer badge for that. She's amazing also at orientation. So she's a safe woman to go on a mission with. Okay, so now that we have introduced the panel, I'll also have a seat and go to another microphone. If it works. Yes, very good. Okay, so let's kick off the panel discussion. And I would like to start with the first question to you, Annalisa, because it was really interesting. We already worked together when you were serving at the first mission board configuration. So you were at the heart of the design of the mission. This was actually before we knew how the mission was actually going to look like, whether there would be any cities at all who would be interested in joining that mission. And now you are really on the ground implementing the mission. And I'm really very curious, you know, for you to learn, how do you experience like moving from the mission design to the implementation of the mission?
Okay, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me in my new, let's say, capacity, but also bringing some past with me. Yeah, how to move from the Eurocrat level, if I may say so, because 22 years of the bubble, you know, Brussels bubbles make you, in a way, a Eurocrat, where you design policies and stuff, to the local level. So going back to the local level, because I was coming from there, is not easy. But it's very interesting and very important. I mean, these are to the level, the local level and the European level are, may I say, two sides of the same coin. They need each other, right? They need each other for objectives like this to basically succeed. And why is it challenging, I would say? For me, there are 3 or 4 points that are very challenging. And we have heard part of them this morning in the previous interventions. First of all, this idea of systemic transformation. We all know we have to move there, yeah, because the business as usual doesn't work. But the sort of collective conditioning to work in silos, vertical, mono actors, and so on is like, sorry, I watched Harry Potter 2 days ago, so it stayed in my mind. It's like being in, you know, the Dementors from Azkaban. You know, they really suck your life. You know, and it's really, they are more powerful than, you know, installing the innovative governance that, on the contrary, we need. Yeah, so fighting that is a big, it's a big thing. So basically, that's why, as 9 cities in Italy that I coordinate or try to coordinate, we have focused, you know, the governance element for our pilot financed by the Net Zero City. So that's one. So how do you do it? How do you sell this idea of systemic, and how do you implement it? Second, how do you actually make the for and by the citizens? You remember, we in the mission board, we discussed really much about we have to add this in the title, right? Okay, well, we self-inflicted something here because that's the biggest challenge. The mayor of Cluj mentioned it. So how do you do it? How do you, because as municipalities, as cities, you are really, you know, in the middle of fires. You have those citizens that are not convinced at all, don't want to change, they want cars, they want this and that, no out of the comfort zone. Then you have those, and they, you know, attack you. Then you have those that are in the middle, they want to, they believe it, but not in my garden, not on my roof, things like that. So, you know, it's like, And then the others, which are super convinced, but it's never enough. You know, you don't do enough. So how do you manage to find, to touch the guts and hearts of everybody, all these different interests? How do you do that? How do you talk, if you may, let me, excuse this parallelism, but how do you talk to them like populists manage to talk to them? You know, it's like messages that need to get to the guts and convince them. So that's very difficult. How do you do it? And third and final, it's, you know, cities do not have, there is a lot of public finance out there. Lemaitre he said that, it's true, we have the recovery funds. In Italy, we have billions. But it's not only public funding, it's not enough anyway. It's more about how do you leverage the private funding, how do you make it work? We haven't found the right schemes. And we don't have the power of legislating. We don't have the power to do an industrial policy for renewables. It's not, we can't do that as cities. We need the national level to do it. So how do we make this happen without being on our own? So basically, it's very complex, your question. My answer is that. But I think that we have to use this mission as the last opportunity to succeed. If we don't use the mission, we have lost a huge opportunity. So we need to continue fighting.
Thank you so much, Annalisa. I think this is very inspirational indeed, ladies and gentlemen. May I just ask a follow-up question, because you mentioned that you are coordinating the work of these 9 Italian cities. So I was wondering if you can say a bit more about how these cities are cooperating, and also how do you bring on board the regional and the national authorities? How do you make sure they see also this mission as the last opportunity?
Yeah, I would rather say I don't coordinate, but my colleagues who are here and are very committed, they let me coordinate them, because it's all voluntary work. I think it's a really team work. We do this because we think it's a very positive thing. It's a very important thing to create a critical mass. And of course, coordinate on our, you know, experience on the contracts and stuff, but also on the daily work, on the, you know, on the different problems we experience, the solutions and so on. So that's very strong. But on the other side, we need to use this. I mean, basically the need aroused with the previous government, who was ready to, you know, do what the Dutch, what Karen said for the Dutch. Cooperate and have conversations with the national government. So, you know, there's so much to work together on, as what I said before, energy incentives, NBS, you know, transport at the local level, decarbonizing transport at the local level. There are so many, again, financing and legislation, regulatory barriers that we need to put down and to, you know, transform into policies, programs, measures. And so we have started to do this now with the new government. We hope that this will become more important, but it's, of course, not easy. And the idea is really to start enlarging also to other cities, and, you know, but it's all voluntary. So we need net zero cities or the Horizon or whatever the Commission can do to help us create these national platforms.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been extremely inspirational already. I would like now to move to you, Ellen, and Project Zero. And I mean, I understand that in this Project Zero, you all have kind of like a common vision and a common commitment to climate neutrality. My question is linked also to the citizens dimension here that Annalisa also underlined as being very important. So how do you involve the citizens in the co-creation of the Climate City contract? Can you share some practical, concrete experiences there?
Yes, thank you. And I would like to start sharing this Project Zero. What is that? Project Zero is a public-private partnership that was formed in 2007, and we have a lot of stakeholders involved in that project. I will come back to that, of course. How we started actually this journey was to invite very concretely to invite homeowners into looking into their energy needs, into their energy consumption. How could they actually minimize their consumption in their homes? And 100 families were invited for that. We are back in 2007. We have been on this journey actually since 2007. And that was the way it started up with doing something about the homes. So very, very concretely. But then we also realized that you need to involve other stakeholders in order to progress. So it is actually very important that you involve the stakeholders around the citizens. Addressing the citizens directly is of course important, but also involving the stakeholders around actually make it more efficient. I would also say, actually similar to what you just mentioned, that we have very different kinds of citizen groups. We, as Sonderborg municipality, is 75,000 inhabitants, 27,000 in the city of Sonderborg. That means a very small city, of course. And then we have rural areas with villages, small villages, and you have different needs depending on where you live, but also depending on what kind of person you are. And we have also made analysis of actually how our population is thinking, you know, how they look into life in general. And it's actually very interesting because it can be totally different in the Sonderborg city compared to a city also very close to Sonderborg, you know, one of the other southern Denmark or Danish cities. That can be very different. So you really need to know your citizens. One concrete example when it comes to the rural areas and how we can actually engage citizens, I believe, is that forming energy communities. You need green energy, you need green heating in the areas, and you also need more renewable energy. And we start thinking in combining this actually, because very often, you know, when we talk about district heating, that is, of course, quite easy, you could say, in the city area, and that's what we do. But when you get to the more remote areas, then it's not always easy to integrate the whole heating system. And then you can make local heating areas and engage the citizens actually in these areas. They are eager to do it. Very often you have few people in such a local society who are very eager to start something, and then you have you support that, you could say, that work on doing this, but you need to have, you know, drivers, leaders in the local societies, and we then support them also together with the heating companies. And now we start, as I mentioned, also combining this with renewable energy, because we need a lot of more solar, a lot of more wind on land in Denmark as everywhere else. And it's, you also know the not in my backyard issue, of course. And if you start combining this with heating and also renewable energy, where you can actually utilize this, and maybe also that the citizens can start getting a share in these investments, then the windmill starts to look a little bit nicer. So you really have to understand the each of the groups that you work with.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ellen. I think it's really inspiring, you know, also to say, like, know your citizens, and that the kind of like different citizens groups. I also found it interesting how you then also, you know, connect your citizens with other stakeholder groups. I think that has been also like really very, very interesting, concrete example. But I mean, are your citizens convinced that they need to change their behavior? I mean, how do you basically, you know, convince your citizens maybe to not always take their car, or do a bit less heating or less air conditioning? Do you have specific strategies to convince citizens to change their behavior?
Yeah, I believe, as I mentioned, it's very different from group to group, and you have to adapt to that. But in general, our strategy is to work with stakeholders, you also just mentioned, and you could say you can attract people to a city or you can invite the whole citizens to the city area in order to have a conference about a certain subject, but it's very difficult actually to attract people. So you need to get closer to them. That is what I mentioned before. You need to get to the local areas and do something very concretely there. But what I mean when I talk about stakeholder involvement is also that you need to get into the processes that are already going on for the citizens, so that it becomes part of their current, you could say, ways of interacting with, for instance, craftsmen, the real estate agents, the banks, not least. The banks are extremely important in this transition. I believe the Danish banks are really moving into this. There's a lot of focus on the transition by the Danish banks, I would believe. And we are actually cooperating with the banks on actually, having the incentives actually made by the bank counselor. So that's a way to make it part of what people already do. I think that's important.
Thank you so much for that. Let me move on now to Tanya. So your city, Gabrovo, is one of the smaller sized cities of the mission, right? So I was wondering if you could share with you, from the perspective of your city, the key challenges and opportunities that you see for the concrete implementation of the mission.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be part of such an inspiration as the mission for climate neutral and smart city is. It is really something that for me is unique, and it is unique not on behalf of addressing only challenges, but also taking on board the opportunities, which means that we have the unique chance to work together, to collaborate, to peer learn, and also to advance. And before you've mentioned that my city is one of the small sized in the mission, I think that the size is only a relativity, because it depends on the perspective. From the perspective of European Union, maybe yes, we are a small city, but from the perspective of my city ranking, we are medium-sized city. And maybe from the perspective of, for example, Cyprus, we are even big city. So I think it is much more of importance how ambitious and what objectives and what goals and with whom you are going to reach for their implementation is rather than the size. Of course, sometimes the quantity is very important for better quality. And at the beginning, because we are not with much time, I would like to say something that I believe all of you part of the mission believe and hope that it will be a reality soon in our European Union. And it is that we really need more mission-oriented policies. And I will say that this is because it is not possible to work anymore with the silos. We have to try to break the barriers. We have to gather together, just like today, people from different backgrounds and with different experience in order to search for new solutions of our challenges. And in my understanding, our challenge is not merely to achieve net zero emissions, it is to achieve an opportunity that will be such that our European citizens will live better, we will have better opportunities for sustainable jobs, and we'll do so together that our planet will be an opportunity for our next generations. And in this regard, I think that the mission for climate neutrality and smart city is crucial in addressing some challenges which are very relevant for my city, for example. Because not all cities in Europe, and unfortunately my city is part of a country where the national authorities are currently not very much preoccupied with green transition, which does not mean that the citizens of my city and of the rest of the cities in my country should be deprived of the opportunities to live a better life and also to be engaged in more climate-neutral activities, to implement investments that will provide for better circularity of their production, for more energy independence, and for solutions that will provide for bigger biodiversity even in our cities. This means that for me the mission is very instrumental to work together with us and to manage to convince the European Union that sometimes when we have plans, when we have systemic efforts that resulted in many different achievements, that we can be supported more directly from the European Union. And this mission has the mission to start this discussion. And because I really need to be in fruitful partnership with my government and the relative ministries, I think that the mission is a great opportunity to use positive approaches and to engage our national authority. And here I will mention that Horizon Europe is a good chance, but being a country that is very much dependent on the cohesion policy, I think this is an excellent opportunity and something that I would not like to miss, being part of the mission, because from Bulgaria we are only 2 cities, my city, the small one, and the biggest, the capital, which is something not very optimistic, I think. There are many more cities that deserve to be part of this initiative. And I here would like to mention that we have to work together, to be in partnership and in collaboration in order to achieve better results. And something that also would like to say that through the missions we could be something that transforms our governance model, because the mission for me is a journey of our transformation, and it will not be successful if only one of the key stakeholders or only one of the actors that are to be engaged or affected is not in this transformation and in this change. Because the achievement of this green transformation wants us all and wants us with our concrete expectations and with our concrete measures. And here I would like to say something from my city perspective, because if you go and treat what we are really doing a lot. And this is thanks to being systematic. We are part of the Covenant of Mayors. A very instrumental moment for our transformation was the fact that in 2021 we were the green leaf of the European Union, and this really gave us confidence that working together with our citizens and with our companies, because we are very much preoccupied with the establishment of our innovation ecosystem, having also technical university and a lot of engagement with research and innovation, we can really be an example and we can really work together on European level and also impact and engage other cities from my country. And here, what I would like to see more from the mission. A little bit more focus, because it will help us, because there are so many topics that are relevant for the mission's goals. A little bit more support, technical support, which will help us identify the best partners from the 100 cities and even more, and also support to advance, because some of you are very efficient in working with citizens. This is something that we need to evolve and to advance. But there are cities that are very efficient in a field where my city is challenged, and it is how to convince a private company that is taking care of our central heating to stop using coals and polluting the air. And here I will stop probably, because it is important to listen to other participants as well.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you so much for outlining the opportunities, the challenges. Very, very clear. I mean, I think you made a very, very good point that the mission is a journey for transformation. Also, thank you for pointing out that size doesn't matter. It's actually the ambition and, of course, the impact that matters. So really, really great. I would like to move on now to Mrs. Olivera Iñach. Your city, Puerto Rico, is one of the 3 cities that is selected under the mission in the Western Balkans. And I was really wondering if you could share with us maybe your approach to the mission implementation, also given the regional context that you are experiencing.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and it's really great honor to speak on behalf of the regional context of the mission. First of all, I see that as important and huge importance for the region, and especially from the field of approach to the advantages of the potentials for international projects. Let's take into account that all Western Balkans, there is six capitals actually which are not part of EU. All of them are facing very similar challenges, or let's say absolutely same challenges with the air pollution and greenhouse gas emission. So first of all, I think the importance of the regional context is to work together in addition to achieve application for EU funds and grants in the field of reduction of the greenhouse gas emission, and of course to prepare countries and to use potentials in best practices. You mentioned the size is not important, but in the context of these three countries, actually, Elbasan is Albania, Sarajevo is Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Montenegro is, Podgorica is capital of Montenegro. All 3 cities are, 2 of them are capitals, but all of them have a development, are the center of development of the countries, and of course are the most polluted, having in mind that, and the biggest, highest emission of the gases there present. Another thing important is, let's be honest, all 3 cities are car-friendly cities. So too much cars, less other sorts of transportation, and I think international projects are important, neutral, to apply for them and to implement some of the new public transportation system, electronic buses, and to do all the best, to use best practice to reduce the gases there. So that's one point of view. Another one regarding the size of there is not too many human capitals in 3 countries. Let's take into account the size. For example, it's good to have regional context and regional approach to use best practices, innovative solution, science, people from science, scientific institutions, and other stakeholders who can work together in this project in the region of Western Balkans. So I find it useful, and finally, at least the last but not the least, there are some regional networks in Western Balkans who mainly there participate cities from other Western Balkan 6. So important thing is to take all together to implement some of the new thoughts, new ideas, new tools and approaches to the reduction of the greenhouse greenhouse gas emission. Plenty of other things, I would say, but energy transition, for example. So good examples, good practice from the EU countries can be through the mission very much implemented in the region, having in mind 3 cities are part of that, and today I met Mayor of Elbasan, soon we'll meet Mayor of Sarajevo. I think that we can be a good example of the best practices from EU cities in our region. So see it as a positive, and I am very enthusiastic that future regional cooperation could be good established in this field.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I think that's really very, very great news. Let me just quickly go back to you, Tanya, because, you know, a question now for your other head, Committee of the Regions. I mean, we would love to hear from you how you see the role of the Committee of the Regions. How can the Committee of the Regions also help with the implementation of the mission?
Well, yes, I have the privilege and the honor to be part of the Committee of the Region institution, which is actually trying to voice the local and regional authorities' needs and to communicate them to the European institutions. And I have the privilege to be chair of one of the commissions in the Committee of the Regions, which is actually engaged with very crucial policies, I believe also for the mission, because on our portfolio there are education, employment, innovation, research, education. So all these components are very relevant for all the politicians at local and regional levels, and sometimes it is the talent how precisely and elegantly to combine them so that you can produce the better added value and the better opportunities for your citizens. And of course, research and innovation, without these two components, we are not going to be an efficient missions in order to reach our very ambitious goal. And I believe that we cities will be really seen as very important, not only territories, but also places of inspiration for the mission, because we are the perfect territory where the experimentation can take place and where the best achievements can be really proved whether they are efficient and also compared, because we have to measure what we are doing in order to be better. And here I would say that another very important topic for our Commission is how to engage more evidence-based policy in our everyday activity. And something that I do not want to miss, because I missed one of the fields that we are very active, and it is culture. You've started saying that with the fact that in my city we have the House of Humor and Satire. We also have something very important, which is something that is very close to the idea to contribute to the mission, because some of you probably know, but the majority not, but in my city, Gabrovo, the famous artist Christo was born. And now we are working, and this is actually a 32 years dream, a grassroots initiative. We are very much preoccupied working with the support of the new European Bauhaus initiative to establish a center of contemporary arts. And here I would like to say that if you engage the values of the new European Bauhaus, I think we will increase our efficiency, we will be better performing, and I am sure that the innovation which will meet with citizens, with artists, and will be implemented in our physical territories will bring the change of our desired mindset. So these are some of the activities, of course, quotes in many different initiatives that are in focus of our Committee of the Regions and also in my commission. And we draft many opinions which I hope contribute to the quality of the European policies with relevance on local and regional level. And you all know that the majority of the policies, more than 70%, are really tested and implemented on the ground. So we are really very dependent, and as it was said at the beginning, the local and European level. So let's have more local perspective, and the mission is a great opportunity to do this.
Thank you so much. So moving from the Committee of the Regions, I want to move quickly to the international level, because of course our urban transition challenges are not only for Europe, they are globally. So I'll be asking you, Georgia, you are the director of the Urban Transition Mission of Mission Innovation. Could you say a bit more about the goals and activities of this mission, and also how does it link to our European Cities mission?
Well, thank you very much, Rosalinde, for having me on this amazing panel, and also for the question on how we can connect internationally. So the Urban Transition Mission is one of 7 missions that were launched in the framework of a global initiative by countries across the world called Mission Innovation. In particular, our Urban Transition Mission was launched by Vice President Timmermans. We will hear from him later today at COP26 in Glasgow. And Mission Innovation is really looking into catalyzing investment and innovation in the field of clean energy transitions in the way that we can really deliver on solutions to get us as quickly as possible to net zero. Our mission in particular realizes the incredible potential, and not only the challenges, of course, that cities are facing in transitioning to climate neutrality, but also to communities that are more resilient, that are more devoted to the well-being of their own citizens. And we try to support cities on that pathway by, in particular, fostering as much as possible engagement across all the level of government. So what was already remarked upon, this important piece of really working across sectors and also across levels of government, and really try to foster as much as possible capacity building, opportunities for knowledge exchange between our cities across the world, but also to really empower them as much as possible in delivering, testing, piloting some of the innovation that cities across the world are implementing on the ground. And the ultimate goal is to really help reaching both the scale, but also the tipping points on the cost of the solution that need to be implemented across the board. And this is where an emphasis, of course, on collaborating not only across level, but also with the private sector in delivering opportunities for investment is very much part of the work that we are doing. So at the moment, we have been already quite active, as you know, Rosalinde. We have welcomed the first cohort of 48 cities worldwide already from the end of last year, and we count in our family cities like Turku in Finland, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, Leja in Albania, Nadi in the Fiji, going all the way to Chefchaouen in Morocco, and to Mumbai in India. So another proof that really size doesn't matter, as long as there is indeed this political will and commitment. And we work with them to really test as much as possible delivery pathways, building upon the already existing plans and strategies. So we are not starting from scratch. We know that our cities have been doing the homework, and we support them in really leveraging and future-proofing their actions for the future. Obviously, this is a very tall order. Urban transitions are complex. It's not just about decarbonization. We need to look across all sectors. And we work with a global innovation alliance of partners across the board. First and foremost, our co-leads who are steering and really helping us guide the support to our cities, including the European Commission, of course, the Global Covenant of Mayors, but also JPI Urban Europe. And in addition to that, we benefit from the support of a number of national governments across the world, including Spain, India, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and Austria, as well as of a number of international partners that are really helping us through in-kind support, through direct technical assistance, to delivering together with us technical trainings on specific elements and technologies to support our cities. And among these, I'll just name a few. We have the UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub. We have IRENA, the International Energy Agency, the World Economic Forum, and of course also city networks like ICLE, Local Government for Sustainability. So in a nutshell, I think the Urban Transition Mission is really very much trying to be a broker of solutions, trying to connect the dots the initiatives, the solutions that are already out there, and trying to leverage as much as possible what has already been done to also identify where the gaps are. And this is where the partnership with the European mission is particularly essential. We have 10 cities that are members of both families, so we really try to work together with them to also make the connection a little bit more closely with the rest of the community. But we are also sharing a global platform, a global exchange, a knowledge exchange platform that was launched a couple of weeks ago. The name of this platform is Urban Transition Mission Center, and it's very closely related to the Net Zero platform. So if you enter there, all of cities here, regardless of being part of our urban transition mission, are more than welcome to come on board and check out what we are doing. Last but not the least, and I heard it a few times by most of the speakers here, the concept and the importance of really relating to the private sector, trying to unlock the investment that is needed to implement. This is very much part of our work. We have a second delivery pathway where we are trying to support each city to implement a couple of pilot actions, and we are working closely with all of our partners to really not only identify what the challenges are, identify what the solutions available out there are, who can provide these solutions, and then finally, how do we get the actual investment to make them be implemented on the ground. So I'll just stop here, and of course, happy to answer any questions. And we have a stand, Rosalinde, right there in the corner. So if people are curious to know more about it, you can also pop by during the lunch break and coffee break and ask me everything that you want to know about the UTM.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Georgia. And really great to know that, also at global level, the mission has resonated and is being taken forward. I love the way you said, you're brokering solutions, and great to see that there's a connection, actually, between our platform, the Net Zero Cities platform, and also then this, what did you call it, Urban Transition Mission Center. So I'm sure that you will see many people at your stand afterwards, but let me just go back to you, Olivia, for a follow-up, because the mission innovation is really about energy transition, and you mentioned energy transitions in your intervention as well as being also central to the transformation in your city. And I was wondering if you could share with us a bit more what the challenges are, in particular how the mission can help not only to mitigate the climate, but also to adapt to the climate change.
Thank you. I was not going in detail before, but Podgorica still is not prepared the climate city contract. We are just at the beginning. But since we started, there are a few challenges really important. I share with some of the previous colleagues. I am sure that we have very similar challenges related to the investments, especially in the field of private sector, how much is involved and how much stakeholders we have from private sector. That's one of the priorities of my work, to take part more from private sector experience, and also, of course, to use the knowledge and they be the channel to implement some of the new energy transition projects. You mentioned that solar system is one of the solution, or other green energy solutions. We have old-fashioned heating and cooling system in my country, in Podgorica, but also in other cities from the region which are part of the mission. What it means during the winter months, it's really unavailable to breathe. At all, Sarajevo and Podgorica have been the most polluted cities in the last few years in all Europe. So there is a need actually that energy transition projects start from to use new models, to implement new systems and to work more on the energy efficiency and energy sustainability of the old buildings, because both cities and Elbasan as well, I'm speaking all the time on behalf of 3 cities from Western Balkans, but we were facing very similar problems. So energy transition needs to start from the green energy, and another one is to work more on energy efficiency and sustainability of old buildings and houses. Why I mentioned private sector? My aim, which I will try or invest efforts to implement, is to more involved private sector, hotels and other buildings, because mainly we have private buildings, or consist vast majority of the buildings in the capital of Montenegro, Podgorica, are private sector or family companies. So I will do the best to involve them and to be part of that. So to use solar systems and other way of energy transition projects. So plenty of things to do, but I think that it's important to, again, to remind that no climate city contract prepared yet, and one of the biggest challenges will be how to solve the investment problems. And that's why in the first part of for your first question responded first with the international funds and grants, EU funds and grants, not just because of the usage of the money and knowledge, but also with the usage of technical assistance and best practices which exist in European Union cities, what could be very useful and energized and help us, you know, to survive actually next winters and next summers, because the climate is definitely changed, but plus this problems with greenhouse gases. For example, temperature in the capital of Montenegro is during the summer months is about 50 degrees, what is actually really, that's why I mentioned, is not something what promises a lot, that it's something what really causes and invites us and requests from us to find the best solutions in a very short time.
Excellent. Thank you so much for these very, very concrete examples, for sharing this with us. I would like to go back very quickly to you, Georgia, and because you mentioned that on the urban transition mission, there are 10 cities that are also part of the European cities mission. I saw some disappointed faces, like, oh, did we miss the boat? I mean, is this the end of it? Can you say a bit more? You know, is there still a possibility to join if cities are becoming enthusiastic about this global mission?
Not only the possibility, but we would love to see all of you joining us, of course. So yes, we have actually right now a call open for interest of cities that want to apply to become part of our urban transition mission. The call deadline is the 21st of August. And we are hoping to be able to welcome another 250 additional cities by the end of this year, to make a good announcement that our family has been growing in Dubai during COP28. And the requirements are very few, actually. We are requesting this community to be at least 50,000 inhabitants, to be a global covenant of mayors signatory. And the reason for that is that we really want to build upon the political commitment, the greenhouse gas inventory, the risk vulnerability assessment, the reporting, and the climate action planning that the city has already done. In addition to that, the city needs to have a climate plan that covers the whole city. And from this year, we have also opened the opportunity for grouping of municipalities, as well as for counties and provinces to join our family as part of our cohort. So again, absolutely everyone is welcome, and I would invite you all to visit www.urbantransitionsmissions.org to see what the conditions are. There is a very easy to read info pack and a nice frequent asked question, or you can just stop me this afternoon and I'm happy to share more information.
That's excellent news. But before you grab your phone and go to the website Georgia just asked you to go to, don't do that yet, because we're going to do one more round. Katrina told me you have to wake up your panelists. He was kind of like giving me signals here. So I'm waking up my panelists now because we're going to do a very quick tour. And I would like to know from all of you, one success story, what you think had really very concrete impacts in delivering on the green urban transition. So very short, just one thing that you are extremely proud of and that you think has made already a big impact in our pathway to the green transition. And let's start with you, Annalisa.
Yes, thank you. Well, saying success story now, 1 year after we've started and we've embarked in the mission, it's not very easy. So rendezvous in 2030, but still, it's already success what we have. I can bring something that, for me, it's already a success because we have started it. And that's, I was discussing it with the team from Milan. It's our planning, urban planning regulation and building regulation. If you adapt these to climate neutrality, you can have a huge impact on existing buildings, on planning, on new buildings, on land use, on green, and so on. So that's, for a city, is the one big instrument on which we can actually have an impact. And next to that, so, you know, to make it easier to put solar panel on for private residents on roofs and things like that, that today are quite complicated. And the second, let me do the second because it's connected, it's public procurement. Public procurement, we have now launched a new scheme where we integrate 6 different tenders that were separated, like on public lighting, maintenance of public buildings, cleaning, I mean, 6 different stuff. And these are being redone in one PPP, private-public partnership contract, with completely read under the lenses of climate neutrality. So I hope that will have an impact by 2030.
Okay, I actually wanted to stop you because I'm asking for one success story, but then, you know, this procurement thing I think was important to add, so thank you for that. So Ellen, your one success story that you're really proud of?
I would highlight the way of working. The way we are organized, we work with what we call a project management office, which has been actually started up from the very beginning many years ago, but it has been, you know, developed over time. And what we are doing now is that we have a very concrete plan, and we have what we call hotspots for each of the areas that we need to decarbonize. Then we have a hotspot owner. We have an owner of that plan. That's a specific plan for each of the areas. And we have a project manager who drives this group that is also organized around this. And we have the stakeholders that are relevant for each of these areas are organized this way. And another important thing is that we have a very strict performance management. We have follow-ups quarterly on KPIs. So we simply follow up very strictly on that. So I think that's a very important success from our side.
Wonderful, thank you for sharing. But did you just slip in also kind of like a second success story? It seems our panelists are so proud that they cannot limit themselves to one story. I'm still going down to you, Tanya. Your one success story that you are most proud of?
It is very difficult to choose only one success story, but anyway, I would tell you very briefly about an initiative that started almost 8 years ago. It was proposed by, at that time, the president of the Committee of the Regions, Mr. Marco Markova, who is really very much engaged not only with the missions, but also with everything that is relevant for the local and regional development. And he proposed to start organizing innovation camps. And we decided to start organizing Gabrovo innovation camps, which are now for the 8th time in planning to happen in my city. And what is interesting in this model, it is the way and the approach that through this initiative we engaged not only with our citizens, but also with other experts with different backgrounds, engaging them from local level, from national level, from international level, in order together to address and find solutions to societal challenges. And one of the societal challenges that was subject for our work last October, during our last innovation camp, which was organized together with JRC, Committee of the Regions, and European Commission, was how to establish our transition team. This is a really challenging topic, and now we are in a process of realizing this initiative. And of course, within similar formats, we can have different perspectives with equal importance, and finally negotiating on the best idea and the best way to prototype, and then to implement it in practice. And one more sentence. During similar activities, and mainly in this format, we very frequently discuss how to find way for more synergies between different flagship initiatives, because in Europe, on European level, we have at least two more. I've mentioned the Covenant of Mayors as a platform, but also I would like to mention the initiative of Partnership for Regional Innovation, and also the opportunity to work for the innovation ecosystems, where the mission is really very much also in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And same question to you, Olivera. I'm still insisting. One success story, please.
Shortly, success story so far that we have good documents prepared, sustainable urban mobility plan for Podgorica and local climate adaptation strategy. That's the first step. Preparation is finished, and now goes implementation, and we will see. By these two documents, they were planned some of the activities in relation to the public transportation and, of course, cycling routes. So the cycling infrastructure, some of the things started, you know, and hopefully in the next period of time, since I am appointed 2 months ago, that we are going to be able, through the mission and through the EU funds, to, you know, to achieve some of these goals and implement some of the activities. So first step is finished. Next one, we are expecting your help and all of people who works in the mission that provide us some assistance, and of course to work with us to be better and to implement all these goals and achievements. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Georgia, one success story.
Absolutely. I also don't want to spoil, you know, all the previews that you can get if you come and talk to me in our stand later, so you can know more stories about what the UTM is doing. But I will focus on one. We launched just a couple of weeks ago 11 pilots with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Global Innovation Hub. I mentioned before they are part of our support group. So these cities are starting to work with us to identify the core human needs and unpack them around shelter, food, access, mobility. And together with the hub and all the partners that belong to it, we are now trying to identify specific solutions that can be applied by the cities in their community, identify solution providers that can help them deliver on the response to these needs, and working with financial institutions, venture capital, and investors to see how to access the funding and the opportunities to implement these activities.
Great. Well, congratulations to all of you. I take away basically 3 key words from this amazing panel. The first one is engage. I think we have heard very concrete examples on engagement with citizens, engagement with other stakeholders, engagement with regional, national authorities. So this is engage. The second key word that I took away is empower. And I think it's very clear we need to empower our citizens, we need to empower our local stakeholders. So empower, engage, empower. And the last one, I would say, is embrace. Let's embrace the fact that we are here together as a very unique and ambitious community, and that we all need to embrace each other in order to make progress and be successful. So engage, empower, embrace. Ladies and gentlemen, a big applause for this amazing panel. Thank you very much.